Police ignored allegations of sexual abuse made against Jimmy Savile as far back as 50 years ago, according to a highly critical new report. An investigation by the Inspectorate of Constabulary found that the first known complaint made against the television presenter was in 1963. The report also warned that failures to share intelligence on prolific offenders could happen again. Our Home Affairs Correspondent Simon Israel has this.
This inquiry goes some way to explaining why little or nothing was done by police to stop Jimmy Savile. It begins its search for reasons back in the 60s, when there were no computers, basic record keeping and little regard to hints of possible child abuse. The Inspectorate's report reveals the Met's first record of Savile was back in 1964. It was found in a ledger kept by the Yard's paedophile unit. The name appears in a note about a brothel used by runaways from the approved school Dunscroft, which Savile regularly visited. Then nothing, for 34 years, about the country's most prolific sexual predator. Not a single entry found in police records, not one note discovered by police forces in any file. Then in 1998, the Met received an anonymous letter. Parts of it read, "He has slimed his way in wherever possible, has tried to hide his homosexuality, but did you know he's a deeply committed paedophile?" There's mention of a blackmail attempt before the letter goes on to say he thinks he is untouchable, before ending with the somewhat prophetic line, "If you think this is a hoax or a crank letter, think again. It is not I who suffer if you do nothing, but the children." This was classified as uncorroborated evidence, never properly investigated, and wasn't made available to other forces for 13 years.
Well, I think the lack of information on the system generally surprised us, given the level of offending and the number of victims, certainly around 400 who came forward when the Metropolitan Police Service started its investigations into this. We were surprised at the absence of any information across force records, and we were surprised at the absence of information about Jimmy Savile in the place where he lived most of his life.
That was a reference to West Yorkshire Police, now under investigation by the Independent Police Complaints Commission around its relationship with Savile. The Met's last record of Savile was in 2003, when a complaint was registered by a victim who did not want to support a prosecution. Police were to mark this information as restricted on their computer database, because the report claims of Savile's celebrity status. The Inspectorate warns that such failures around information about Savile could be repeated. It's a warning police acknowledge, but say it will cost millions to guarantee there is minimal risk of another predator like Savile getting through.
Well, I've been speaking to Commander Peter Spindler, head of Operation U-Tree, the investigation into Savile's past offences at the Metropolitan Police, and I began by asking him why so many allegations had been ignored.
I think the police response probably does reflect society and our attitudes towards children and young people.
But it's not just about the attitude towards children, it's about the attitude towards celebrity, isn't it? Because what does seem clear was that Jimmy Savile was treated differently because he was a celebrity.
I haven't seen any evidence that says he was treated differently as a celebrity.
Well, I mean, the restricted report was because he was a celebrity.
Yeah, we use restricted reports on anything that has the potential to be a salacious or high-profile story, and it's to protect that information. There are people who will make false allegations, and the letter that came in was anonymous, it was uncorroborated, and it
wasn't investigated, was it? And it probably wasn't followed up because you thought, well, it's Jimmy Savile, there's obviously nothing in that.
Now, the 1998 letter, when it came into Scotland Yard, and you can read the text of it, it's published in the report, actually relates to issues in Leeds. Now, that was properly handled in London, it was recorded on our intelligence system, and it was disseminated to West Yorkshire Police for their further consideration.
But because it was restricted, it didn't end up getting passed on.
And that's correct. When we restrict a document, we actually need it to be handled confidentially, and it wasn't until 2011, with the advent of the Police National Database, that we uploaded it.
I can see the reasoning, but the point is he did get special treatment because he was a celebrity, because it was restricted because he was a celebrity, because you felt, you know, this could be anybody making a salacious claim. And he was protected by that celebrity as a result, inadvertently, but he was, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's the unfortunate outcome from this, and these are the sorts of things that we need to reflect on and we need to make sure never happen again.
But that's what the Greater Manchester Police Chief is saying. We can't guarantee the public on. We can't guarantee that this thing wouldn't happen again.
There are no guarantees in life. Policing is a very complex business. The investigation of sexual offences is one of the most difficult and challenging things that we do. However, our systems and processes have improved significantly.
In the Savile case, there was a period of 30 years where there are no records. Do you believe records never existed or were lost or destroyed?
I think it's very difficult to say. When you listen to the victims, there are a number of them that said they did attempt to bring to notice, not just to police, but also to other people in authority, what Savile was doing. And I don't see this as completely a policing issue. This is something that we all need to reflect upon and look back at our culture and our attitudes through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and indeed the 90s.